Howdy, folks. Happy Thursday. We have some things to discuss. We reviewed Team Canada yesterday. We're going to review Team Sweden today. Ack will be joining us in a few minutes. But we, as always, start with the pre-show. Go ahead, Russ.
So, how many years has it been since you saw the last Matrix, Mike? Oh, Mike's gone already.
Oh, the last Matrix. No, I had to adjust my glasses. The last Matrix. Here's a confession. I've watched the first one many times and I liked it.
Right.
The second one, I watched it once and didn't think it was anything special. And the third one, I've never watched.
Okay. So it's been 18 years.
Since the first one?
Since the last one.
Oh, God. Okay.
And now a new one's coming out this December. Now, it was supposed to come out last year, but because of COVID, it didn't, right? So as I start to dig in, and I looked at the trailer, and I sort of held my response so I could look into everything. Mm-hmm. And first thing I see is no Lawrence Fishburne. He is not.
Didn't they kill off Morpheus?
Listen, you know as well as I do.
Nobody gets killed off, really. Yes.
Really. In these kinds of movies. So he said, I wasn't invited to be in the movie. And if you want to know, ask the director, because I don't know the answer. I don't know what to tell you.
Now, is Carrie-Anne Moss in it?
She is still in it.
Okay.
And of course, Keanu Reeves is. So there's that. Still, Keanu Reeves is the worst beard grower on earth. Like, it's a horrible patchy beard, but the special effects look good. It looks a little bit too much like Mission Impossible and a little less like The Matrix, other than having the pills. And I remember, like, the first Matrix, like when he was dodging the bullet and everything else, those were special effects that were just beyond any other movie we had ever seen.
Yeah, ahead of their time. Yes, definitely.
And now everybody's caught up with everything. So I kind of wonder, has this movie lost its luster? This being the fourth one, it's got to be the final one. I mean, and has it lost its luster?
Well, look, I mean, I'm the wrong person to ask because I thought the second one lost its luster. So just imagine with the fourth one. I mean, at a certain point, you play things out. It's like it's too much. It's like, what are you're just going to keep going back? I mean, I understand from a money-making perspective, like in Hollywood, they want something that's going to have guaranteed gate. And the funny thing is, Keanu Reeves and Lawrence Fishburne are in the John Wick movies.
Right. Fishburne
was in the second one. He's in the third one. He's probably got a big.
Any of the John Wick. I don't even care for that.
Honestly,
I have no interest.
They're pretty good. They are pretty good.
Okay.
But I have absolutely no interest in seeing Matrix 4. None. Now, here's how screwed up the movie business is right now. The Bond movie is finally coming out next month after being delayed for, I think, a year and a half. Top Gun Maverick was supposed to come out late this summer. Now they've pushed. Now, I guess the same company that has Top Gun with Tom Cruise has Mission Impossible with Tom Cruise.
That's a problem.
They've pushed Top Gun to where Mission Impossible was supposed to come out, which was next May, and moved Mission Impossible to next September or October. So they're just pushing things down the line because they want the gate from the movie theaters. And not to get too in detail here, but for all the success that Netflix and these other companies had putting out these movies on networks like Netflix or Paramount Plus or whatever,
HBO Max, yeah.
Or HBO Max, the lawsuit between Scarlett Johansson and Marvel may have ruined that, because that was sort of an end around on them giving guarantees in terms of salary based on what these movies made at the box office on the back end. And she's rightly pissed off because she was going to get like millions of dollars because of what that movie could have made and because
it was a good movie. I like it.
It was a good movie, and I think if it was out there, it probably would have beaten.
I mean, it was out there. I saw it in the theater, but again,
but it was limited. It was limited, and the seating was limited based on COVID. So, yeah, no, I just think I think that's gonna have a chilling effect on, because they said, well, movie theaters are dead and it's gonna go down, it's gonna go the way it's gonna be remote, it's gonna be this and that. And I'm like, no, they make more money. I used to work in the movie theaters. I was a manager at a movie theater for 7-8 years. I worked at a theater for 10 years. These companies, they make 90% the first week of whatever you pay at the ticket, they get 90% of it. And as the weeks go down, the percentage of the movie company goes down and the theater goes up. So the theater has a interest in having these movies run for a long time.
Right.
But these companies, they get their money. It's like a mortgage. They get their money at the very beginning. They get their money right away. And I actually hope that Scarlett Johansson wins, because she got screwed, and they knew this was going to happen.
You think? How did they?
Not that they knew what if COVID was going to happen.
But what did they know that was going to
happen? They knew that they could avoid paying on the back end by putting it out on a service rather than.
I see, but again. Would she have sued if they waited 3 years to put this movie out like they're doing with these Mission Impossible and Top Gun, which is going to be an abomination anyhow?
But it's going to make tons of money.
Will it? I don't know.
Yes, I know tons of people who are like, they love the original Top Gun in the 80s.
Tons. We're not talking about your coffee clutch in the morning. Who are
no, I'm not talking about
people?
I'm talking about people my age and a little younger who were 17, 18, 19 years old when Top Gun came out. I think it was 1986.
Yeah, so 7 people in Buffalo that want to see it. That's great.
Shut up. Jesus.
That's really going to affect the box office.
Yes. Okay. Let me just make this personal observation.
Wait, did you see Funky's post? Mission Impossible: The Leafs Winter Playoff Round. That's a good movie.
Thank you, Funky. And
Amazon's doing it a little differently, but yes, that's good.
And Funky, how are the Red Wings doing? Okay. I love Canada. Canada is my second favorite country. The U.S. being the first.
The second favorite country.
Well, hey, what was I supposed to say? Switzerland?
No, honestly, was there anybody else you were going to go to? There was never.
Yeah. I'm sorry. It was this close between them and the Netherlands Antilles. Come on.
Not even Italy.
No, screw Italy. My family left Italy, so that tells you what I think of them. But I'm sorry. We're now over a month into the current border restrictions, and it's unbelievable because, okay, I'm prepping to go up to training camp for the Leafs later this month. And I've been looking at places that do testing, and you need a negative PCR test within 72 hours of crossing the border to be able to get into Canada. Okay. The problem is that no place, unless you're willing to pay through the nose, can get a result back to you within 72 hours. There are like Rite Aid and Walgreens and all these drug stores.
They're not fast enough.
They're 2 to 3. So yeah, the results are in 2 to 3 business days. So by the time
one with an app that's quicker,
but that's a rapid test. That's not a PCR.
You're not allowed to take that.
Not allowed to take it. It's only the PCR.
Well, test. Rapid tests done now. We don't even bother.
Yeah. Well, no. Rapid tests but rapid tests are like 70% effective, or 70% accurate. So it gives you a general okay, and then maybe not, but they don't accept it. And to get a PCR test within 24 hours costs anywhere between $125 to $225. So, maybe I have to open up a tip jar to get people to donate so I can cross the Canadian border. It's absolutely ridiculous.
I would do that.
I'm probably going to.
Soprano is not happy with you that you didn't accept Italy as the next choice. Tony Soprano's mad at you.
Well, so, I'm sorry, Tony, but how dare? First of all, half my family's from Sicily, and they hate Italy as much as I do. So anyway, All right, let's start the show. Sorry, I alienated half our audience.
Yeah, I'm not going to give them a like. I love Italy.
Hello, Hockey World. Today is Thursday, September 9th, 2021.
I'm Russ Cohen from Sportsology.
And I'm Michael Agello, and this is the HockeyBuzzcast here on HockeyBuzz.com. All right, Eck will be joining us any minute. We'll start with this because it was announced yesterday, but we, with Kevin, we got a little far afield and then sort of a lost track.
Yep.
Pierre Dorion, who's the longtime general manager of the Ottawa Senators, it was announced yesterday that he has signed an extension through the 24-25 season with an option for the 25-26 season. Now, I've been less critical of Dorion because really he is handcuffed by who the owner is. And I think that it's a situation where Eugene Melnyk is not exactly flush with cash, and I think that's limited the Senators' ability at times to do what they could do best to put out the best product. But there's a lot of young talent there, and I think Dorion Russ has been mainly responsible for that. Yeah,
he's done a really good job, but there is a point now, and they're trying to say they've crossed over in the sense that they're saying now they're on the path to some sort of victory here, to the playoffs. And I'm not sure they are. I'm not sure they're just not, 5 wins better than they were last year, or even like 7 wins, and they still come up short. I don't know if I see a path where they're making the playoffs this year. I don't think their goaltending is good enough. I don't think their defense is good enough. Their offense may be close to good enough, but I still think they lack some veterans on some of those lines. And so, and we don't even know if Brady Tkachuk will be in camp. Like, then we're going to start to worry about that.
Well,
Dorion has done everything that Eugene Melnyk has wanted him to do, so he's been rewarded. But I don't know if Dorion's done everything Pierre Dorion wanted to do. We'll never know that.
Well, I think there's some legitimate skepticism when it comes to the organization and their future, and I think that's at the heart of Brady Tkachuk's hesitancy to lock himself in on an 8-year deal with the Sens. If he sees a path where, okay, we're really going to compete, we're going to be, we're going to add the players that we need to be a competitive playoff team, then I think he would sign the 8-year deal. But I think he's hedging his bets right now. And I think that's probably the main reason why he's, saying, okay, maybe we'll take the 3-year bridge deal, or maybe we'll go 5 years like Austin Matthews. But I want the big money even on a 5-year deal. There's a reason that these players are. Shabbat got the 8-year deal at $8 million. I think he got that a little too early, but it was a good roll of the dice. Batherson signs a multi-year deal at a little under $5 million. Colin White, the same, a little under $5 million. So they're basically following the Arizona model, at least the Arizona model of a few years ago, getting their young guys locked up on reasonable deals, buying years of unrestricted free agency. But Tkachuk, Russ, is a different kettle of fish. He's a star player. He comes from a well-to-do family. His dad made tons of money in the NHL. His older brother signed a 3-year deal with Calgary, and I'll bet you anything, his representation is saying to the Sens, how about a 3-year bridge deal?
Could be. I think he would take 5 if we're at like $9 million, like Kaprizov. I think that's what he's looking for. Here's the issue. So we look at the Sens, forgetting about 17, the last time they made the playoffs, but in 18, 28 and 43, and 19, 29 and 47, and 20, 25, 34. I'm not even counting the ties. And then 23, 28. Again, that's their best record, the 23, 28, and 5. Mm-hmm. But in the end, is that even a good record? It's not even what the NHL would call 500, and it's not a 500. So I look at that and I say they haven't really had progress other than we could point out good players. As a team, they've had no success.
No, they haven't had success. And I think some of the moves that they have made in the offseason, not this offseason, but the previous offseasons, most accurately the Matt Murray trade. That's really, I mean, okay, they traded for Matt Murray. He had an option for 1 year, and then he was a UFA. They signed him to a 4-year deal at 6.25. If I was a general manager, I would have maybe hesitated a little bit to give him 4 years or to give him 6.25. But he did win 2 Stanley Cups, so that was a roll of the dice. Maybe
he still wasn't the same even when they got him. Like,
the injuries. I think the injuries have hurt.
Right. So I don't know why they gave the 6. I don't know why.
I think because they had the cap space.
Okay, fair. So they had the money to spend. They spent it. But in the end, as a franchise, they're really not. They're a fringe playoff team at best. That's the best thing we could say about them. This is year 5.
Yeah.
They didn't spend the money they said they were going to spend. Eugene Melnyk said he was going to spend money. It was probably supposed to be last year if we went back and held him to his word. But
no, it was supposed to be this year. This year was
Well, this year he could have, because there are going to be fans, and he hasn't even spent it on Brady Tkachuk yet.
Right. And, can you say that?
And that's not on Pierre Dorian. This is none
of
No.
That's he's operating under a budget. Can you say that signing Connor Brown to a 3-year deal at $3.6 million, which is a great deal because he's a really good player, and I didn't want the Leafs to trade Connor Brown because I thought he had this kind of potential, and now he's realized that in Ottawa in a top 6 role, he's only got another year on his contract after this year, and then he's a UFA. Do you think there's a chance that he's going to re-sign in Ottawa? Well, based on
probably not
spending money, no, it's not.
And that's the thing. They haven't spent the money this year like they were supposed to. I don't know if they're any closer to the playoffs. Dorian's doing what he can under the budget he has, but we were just saying with Ottawa, they were supposed to spend money this year. They haven't even spent it on Tkachuk yet. So
no, they haven't done it yet. It's not to say they won't, but
they were supposed to do more than that anyhow. That's just from within.
Yeah, they're promoting their young guys, and I mean, honestly, if I'm them, and I have Stützle, and I have Formanton and Pinto and Norris, then I want to promote those guys because they're good young players. But the thing is, to take advantage of those good young players on their entry level deals, you have to surround them with veteran players to have a chance to compete. And we all know. Look at the history here. Taves and Kane on their ELC, Getzlaf and Perry on their ELC, Doughty and Kopitar on reasonable contracts. The teams win when these players are being paid less. This is right now, the next 1 to 2 years was Ottawa's opportunity to win with those players on cheap contracts, and they haven't. You consider adding Austin Watson, that big move to. No.
Even if Tkachuk signs for $7 million, let's just say it's 7.
Yeah.
It gives them $17 million in cap space.
Right.
Yeah, they're still like way under. I know they're kind of. I mean, there are some guys still out there. Guys they've had before that they haven't signed to, which is kind of surprising. Like there's some UFAs out there they could definitely jump on.
Yeah, but they don't want to bring. See, that's the thing. They don't want to bring back Erica Branson or re-sign Alex Galchenyuk or any of those. There's nobody. They'd rather spend that money on the players internally than to bring in additional players, because I don't think in their mind's eye they don't think they're a competitive team. They're a team.
Let me ask this basic question, and I don't know if any of us know the answer. What is the date that they have to be compliant to the cap floor? Because right now they're not.
The day they have to be compliant to the cap floor is the start of the regular season.
Right, it's their first game.
2 days.
So if Brady Tkachuk says I'm holding out, they're under the cap floor.
Right.
Yeah, that is an interesting scenario. I thought about that too. Like they really Tkachuk has him in many ways there because he's definitely got a lot. He's got a lot of power. I mean, they're going to get it done with Tkachuk. I don't think there's any question about that. It's just the fact that they haven't yet is suspicious unless they have and they're trying to do something else that we don't know about. That's possible too, but I doubt it.
Well, Russ, what they would do then if it came down to like 2 days before the season, they would sign Tkachuk to the bridge deal because that would get them to the cap floor.
We say that, but Buffalo's also under the cap floor, and Rasmus Dahlin is hanging out there. My big thing is this.
Yeah.
Heck, does the NHL send a note like the township for when you're late on your taxes to say, hey, by the way, you have until this date or else? Are they going to send that note to these two franchises that are under the Right now, they're under the cap.
No, it's a known thing. They have to do it. Maybe your UFA sitting out there waiting and like saying, hey, this is going to be a great opportunity for me here. Like someone's going to pay $5 million to somebody.
Right. Like if Darlene just says, hey, I'm ready to just wait this out, the Sabres have to go sign somebody for like essentially almost $3 million
for this year. Like that's the other thing. Like, they can't just like re-up somebody for next year. They have to get this year.
I volunteer. The Sabres can sign 1 year for $8 million to get to the cap floor. I'll make the sacrifice.
Yes, something has to happen.
I'm just saying, name me a year that we're this close to.
Yeah, no, they've never had this before. No,
never had this.
No, we've never had this. And what with so little. I mean, there's players out there that can still be signed, but not
even the expansion team has spent more money.
No, but
not a lot of players. Not a lot of players out there to be signed for the money that's out there. In those
what could happen? What could happen if these teams get close enough to the beginning of the regular season and they need to get to the cap floor? You could see a Ryan Kessler getting traded to one of those teams and placed on IR just to get them to the cap floor.
I would say it's not allowed. Honestly,
that's allowed.
I know, but I would say it's not just to hit the cap floor. I think
it feels like it definitely feels like circumvention, but it is circumvention straight out. But
it is.
I know. But that whole concept of circumvention we talked about before is kind of dead. Like they used to have a big problem with it, but now it doesn't seem to exist anymore. So I don't know. I mean, it's a really interesting point and something I've been working on a blog for a while. It's like how these teams are going to make it to the floor. I do think Tkachuk.
There is a method that the league has of penalizing the team, and honestly, it's not that harsh. I mean, these guys are billionaires. It's not that big of a deal, honestly.
But I don't think they can even play, right? Like they can't. I don't even think they
can play.
I don't think they can play. Like from what I understand, from how I used to, at least if you're over the cap, you definitely can't play. If you're under the cap, can you play? I don't know. I mean, I know you're forfeiting if you're over the cap. If you're under the cap, I think you forfeited into it. I don't think there's a method. I don't think there is.
You cannot play if you're over the cap or under the cap floor. You have to be find a way to be compliant.
So you have to be compliant.
You have to be compliant. So there's no way out of that.
There's no like draft pick penalty, and you have to be compliant. You have to be within that range.
Yeah, I don't know, and you can't redo contracts either with your own players and like suddenly give players more money, which is the other thing you think.
But you can
Gary Bettman call Eugene Melnick and he's hanging up, and the same thing with Pagula, and he's hanging up the phone because he knows why he's calling.
I don't even think the call has to be made. I think the NHL just sits out there and says, this is it. This is what you got to do. And they know it. They're aware of it and they're waiting for it. And if it doesn't happen.
But is it the start of camp or is it the start of the season?
No, it's the say the
48 hours or something like that before your game time.
It starts on a Wednesday. They have to be compliant by like Monday at 12 noon, something like that.
So they had till the beginning of October, that first week.
October, like 12th or 13th.
Or so the second week.
Yeah.
But these guys who are getting, invites to camps and stuff like that, to those teams, they could be signing some pretty good contracts because they have to. They're going to have to. They're going to have to sign pretty big contracts.
Yeah, but okay, and I'm looking at it right now just to see. Yeah, I mean, Ottawa only has 43 pro contracts. They could sign 5 players to get cap compliant, and because they have 50. They could sign Eric. We'll sign Erica Branson to a 1-year, $4 million contract, and that gets them halfway to the cap floor.
Yeah, that's pretty good for Branson. I mean, there's other guys that are out there. That definitely are still it's still out there, right? Like Sammy Vatanen still out there, right? Last I checked.
He's still out there.
He's still out there.
See, there's a guy that somebody's going to give a pretty good contract to, because
maybe not. We don't know. We really don't.
Because they have to. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, because you're going to have to spend your money somewhere, and it's like he's a player who's a $4 or $5 million player, perhaps. I don't know, maybe not, but
some team may. But I think more than likely, what happens is there are enough teams at the cap ceiling that are maybe looking to trade a player who's got a year or 2 left in their contract, and these teams would trade for those guys,
right?
Because there's cost certainty there.
The other chatter is, by the way, sorry to cut you off, Mike.
Yep.
Is so far Logan Brown hasn't signed his qualifying offer. He hasn't done anything. There's talk now. I'm not going to say he wants out, because if he wanted out, we would see a quote about that. And
I don't think he wants out.
But does seem like maybe he does want to be traded, or he wants to get paid better. And that's another issue again, Eck, because he has a chance of being a decent NHL player, but you have to sign him.
Yeah, you got to sign him.
And I know because this has been sort of buzzed around the rumor world. Logan Brown, during the offseason, practiced and worked out with Austin Matthews. And there was a lot of speculation that, if he's working out with Austin Matthews, maybe the Leafs would trade for him. I don't know. I mean, I think to me right now, he's nothing more than a borderline NHL, AHL player, but maybe the Leafs would be willing to.
He could develop, Mike.
He could develop. He's got the size, he's got the skill, but the last thing the Ottawa Senators want to do is trade him to Toronto and then have to deal with the ramifications of, we gave up on this guy and now he's good.
Right. I mean, there are rumors out there that he's wanted out. Yes, that people in the chat room are saying that, but it's not really been officially announced. And Anisimov did get a PTO with Colorado, which is a team that does have cap issues, which is interesting. So to me, but it's not very uncommon at all. The guy goes in and has a PTO somewhere else, someplace, and signs somewhere else. We've seen that before too. Yeah. We've seen players taken out in the middle of games for it. It's pretty funny in the preseason. The preseason games, I remember, I think it was Bill Guerin might have left a Flyers game in the middle when he was playing for the Flyers on a PTO, or I think Brian Berard did as well at one point, just because somebody else offered a contract to him, to get a contract. So for Anisimov going there,
I want to say that's what happened with Umberger too, because the Rangers had invited him, and did the Flyers sign him when he was PTO'd by the Rangers? Maybe.
I'm not sure. Perhaps. I don't know. We'll see. We'll see. I mean, so we're going to get into a couple other things today.
There's one more bit of real. Actually,
let's go for that. Let's go for that first.
And that's Patrice Bergeron is not extending his contract. Now, I am not going to jump to conclusions and say he's going to retire at the end of the season. But if all of a sudden after this season, if Rask isn't signed long term and there's no Chara and the team doesn't seem as good to him, is it possible? I guess it's possible.
And extending on that, Bergeron, in an interview with Fluto Shinzawa, talked about his former teammate David Krejci and said cryptically, "Hopefully, we'll see him back."
Yeah, that was interesting.
So that's annoyed him clearly.
Yeah, it's it definitely, the whole situation has annoyed him, and he doesn't think it had to happen that way. And
I mean, certainly they're going to miss him. We all said that.
Yeah. Yeah, no, they definitely did. We definitely did.
Now, if you were the GM, Eck, would you go and try and get Krejci back now and see if that smooths things over with Bergeron? I would, because I wouldn't want to see Bergeron leave next season. Because if that happens, I'm already a one-line team. Now what am I?
Yeah, but the problem is, Russ, they don't have the cap space now.
I get the impression that they just can't work it out with Krejci. Like I think Bergeron, although he says that, and although we know where they're going to hurt, they made decisions they've already made, have already put them into that corner. I think they're kind of stuck. And
probably knew he probably vocalized that beforehand. Anyhow, he's just making it public.
And I also think that I don't see Bergeron really playing anywhere else necessarily. I think he's 36
years old, so it's very conceivable that he could retire. Those have been hard years on this guy. But to
Krejci come in January?
What's that?
Could Krejci come in January?
They don't have the cap space anymore. They
depends if they have the cap space. I mean, maybe they do.
As much. They can move a player before that.
Maybe somebody gets hurt. Maybe someone goes on LTIR. Right. There's a possibility.
If that happens, yes. But they spent almost $4 million on Nick Foligno. They spent $2.5 million on Haula. They spent $1.75 million on Nosek. They replaced. Yeah. That's Krejci's salary right there. They don't have the room to sign him.
I, for one, like when players who are like 35, 36 start doing this like this. So just go year to year, honestly, because I think that it's It definitely makes it easier for the team. It's definitely a favor for the team, essentially. Doing that, yes. Yeah, I mean, and I think he definitely wants to stay in Boston. So if he's not, at this point, he's just willing. I think this is just a personal decision. He doesn't want to leave them in a lurch.
I can't see Patrice Bergeron doing a Mike Modano and going to Detroit after like a decade in Dallas.
But Modano did it, and Alfredson did it, and
regretted it. He regretted it, Russ. Because
they all do it. Alfredson did it. Many
people do it. That's for sure. But it really depends. I mean, I guess it just depends on where he's at. I mean, Bergeron is still really good, so he's better than those guys were when they did it. You know, like Modano had slipped off of his career. Alfredson had slipped off his career at that point. Bergeron's still pretty much.
Yeah, no, that's fair.
I mean, he's not like he's at the peak of his game, but he's not far.
That's all I got for big news.
Yeah. So that's good. So we're gonna do two things. I'm gonna do the we're gonna talk Team Sweden. We're gonna talk LA Kings prospects. I want to start with Team Sweden because I may have to run at some point, so I'm trying to deal with that. But
let's get it going. Yeah,
so we'll start with Team Sweden. This is a couple things that were interesting about this team. You know, when you look at the Team Sweden Olympic team, in the past, it has always been driven by what feels like a different kind of team than this team that we're about to get into.
Why don't we start? Yeah. Why don't we start in goal first? Because that's Now, it was notable that, and I don't know whether it took place yet, but there was an announcement last month about like the roster that was invited for the pre-Olympic camp.
Yeah,
and there were some notable absences on that list. They only had invited 2 goaltenders, and that was Leonard and Ullmark. They didn't invite Markstrom.
Yeah,
but I would think that you're going to take 3 goalies, and Markstrom is going to be one of the 3.
Yeah, he's got to be. I mean,
he could be unless they decide to go with Wallstedt, so he's just there because he could be their next great goalie.
Yeah, unless he's pissed somebody off in the Swedish world.
Yeah, maybe there is something there that we don't know about. Then they could go Wallstedt.
I mean, that was the only thing I could think of, as to why he wasn't invited, or he just simply said he couldn't go, or
Leonard's the number 1. Like, that's obvious.
Yeah, I think Leonard's the number 1. I mean, I think that
Markstrom's the number 1.
You think who?
I think Markstrom's the number 1.
If they both play, well, if they both get,
not if he's not there.
Well, I mean, some people were making, because William Nylander was not, and we'll talk about the forwards in a minute. He was not invited, and Erik Carlson was not invited. Was that because there was an injury situation, or was it because because they're not going to be selected? If he's not selected, then obviously Leonard.
No, I think Nylander will be selected. I think Markstrom could be up in the air for some reason.
There must be something else there. I don't know what it is, but it could be anything from something just very, very small, like he told him ahead of time he couldn't go, and didn't want to make a big deal out of it or something like that. Couldn't go to that camp or whatever, or it could be something bigger. That's what we just don't know. Or it could be something long term. But if both goalies are available, if both goalies want to go, I'd rather have Markstrom as a starter too. But if both goalies obviously, if Markstrom's not going, then Leonard's your guy and Ullmark's your backup. I think at this point, that's where you have to go. And that's not a great state of affairs for Swedish goaltending in general. Like right now, I think I'm not saying.
Okay, I'll say this. Obviously, it's not as great as having a Hall of Famer like Lundqvist as the guy.
Right.
But compared to some other teams, that's not terrible goaltending. I mean, I think you have options there.
Yeah.
Yeah, you do. All right, so let's go to the offense, because the offense is there's a lot of different ways, and I looked up, some after I did mine, I went around and checked out everybody else's around I could find, and everybody had different things going on.
Okay.
And very much different opinions on this. So my top line for this team is Zibanejad, centering Elias Pettersson and William Nylander. And I know Elias Pettersson is not generally a winger, but I just think that's a very strong line, and I think that
you could do that. I'm not against that.
You have enough centers that I think that you have to make somebody into a winger, and I think Pettersson.
Right, but you
do it.
No, but normally you don't want to make one of your best playmakers a winger, especially when I've looked at different lists, and when you're getting to you don't want Pettersson to be anything lower than your second line center.
Right. He's got to be on your. But I think the problem is you've got 3 centers, right? That you, and none of those should be below your second line, and that is
who are the other ones?
That is Pettersson, Zibanejad, and Backstrom, right? Like to me, all 3 of those guys have to be in your top 6.
Well, see, I think Backstrom can be in your third line center.
I mean, he could be. He could be a
but I
third line
think
center.
I mean, I don't know because then
He would never complain. Let's put it that way.
Right.
He could be right, but I don't know. I think that I don't see Team Sweden doing that the way Sweden works. You know, like I just don't see that they have a lot of loyalty to guys.
I mean, you go ahead, Russ.
I was gonna say if you do what X suggests, then you could basically you're just making William Carlson your third and Eriksson Ek your fourth. I mean, that's fine. It'll work.
Well, I'm actually making Lindholm my fourth, but I'm making Carlson my third. Yeah.
See, Lindholm can play the wing.
He can play the wing. Yeah, he can.
Yeah, I would have Eriksson Ek over Lindholm, I think. At this point.
Yeah, that's I mean, I didn't put him on my team. And that's and it's. I mean,
Lindholm will make the team, and Eriksson Ek's going to make the team. It's just a matter of if he starts or not.
I would rather have a power winger like Landeskog or a Forsberg on the top line left wing rather than Pedersen playing out of position. If you want to maximize your abilities, you play Pedersen where he normally plays, and you can say, oh, he's going to be a matchup problem against Crosby or against somebody, Jack Eichel if Jack Eichel plays for the U.S. Yeah, it's going to be a matchup problem for the other guy because Pedersen is so quick. Yeah. And so such a great playmaker. So I don't think you take him out. I take him out of his normal MO. You put him up the middle, and you make other.
You gotta remember, Mike. Pedersen's lousy at faceoffs. Like this year was his best year at 45%.
Yeah, I get that. I get that.
Yeah, he is, and and you can't have you have like Mitch Marner's a playmaking winger. You have playmaking wingers,
right? But Mitch Marner is a winger. He's been
right. But I'm just saying you have guys who can play the wing. Like, I mean, so my second line is Backstrom with Landeskog and Nyquist.
Nyquist.
Yeah, I like Nyquist.
I completely rule out a Nyquist because he missed almost all of last year.
I know, and I'm hoping that he's healthy. If he's healthy, I think he's there. And just from talking to people in Sweden, they just are so high on him.
Okay.
I think that he could. He might not make it, but I mean. But and based on what we would think, but remember that again, this isn't just an NHL thing. It's like you have to look especially when you get into Sweden, Finland, and Russia. You have to look at what they think of locally as well, like how sometimes they think their guys come over here and aren't used right in different situations. They think they're better than they should be. Nyquist is one of those guys. That's what I keep hearing, that they think he's a superstar.
I think Lucas Raymond will be added before Nyquist. That's what I think.
Yeah.
I would do that too myself. I'm just saying that, but based on what we've seen, but they have a much higher opinion of Nyquist from what I've heard than we do. And if that's the case, then he's up there. Now that also puts together a third line of the two Predator players, right? In Forsberg and Arvidsson, and the players who played together in the past.
I'm not against that because I'm not sure. Forsberg's been so inconsistent.
Yeah,
I'm not sure that's not better just to play those guys together.
And that's where I put Carlson as a center. I put Carlson centering those two guys. I think that's a solid line, and I think that you get that they play a similar style to each other. You can see that line working right away. It just that seems like a really good third line in this tournament to me. But then it gets complicated, and it's complicated already. But then the fourth line, my fourth line is Lindholm with Raquel and Olofsson, and a lot of people don't think Olofsson's ready yet. I do.
He'll make it.
I think he's ready. I mean,
nothing else, he'll be one of their better power play guys.
I couldn't find many people who put him on their list after I did mine. After I went through and did it, he was the one player. A lot of people had Nyquist on there, believe it or not. But
no, he's Olofsson's on the half wall on the power play. He's got a bullet shot. He's really good on the power play.
Yeah, I think he's got to be on there.
But I don't think he'll be anything more than a fourth liner because he's really, I think 5-on-5. He's not. He's barely a break-even guy, and sometimes he's a liability as a 5-on-5 guy. But as a power play guy, if you put him with a skill, like he could be higher in your top 9 based on the fact that if you put him with a guy who distributes the puck, he could score. But he's more effective on the power play.
Yeah. So I didn't put Ekblad,
Raquel,
I think will make
Eriksson definitely. Silverberg is another option, possibly.
I feel like he's fallen off a little bit.
Yeah, I do feel like he's fallen off too.
Like this, he's a borderline player on this. If he gets off to a huge start, but maybe but which is what you're going to see, I think, in the fourth lines and things like that, is players who come out really hot. Like there could be some young players that come out really hot, like you know, younger, especially, you know, someone said something in the chat room, and you mentioned somebody too, like Jesper Bratt, right? That's yeah. I mean,
I think he's fallen off.
Yeah, I think he's fallen off too. But if somebody comes off really hot in the beginning of the season, maybe.
One of the things that was curious about the invitees to that camp was the fact that guys like Carl Hagelin, you know, role players were invited, which you know we've seen we've seen in the past, you know, like Rob Zaminer make it for Team Canada, or Chris.
Yeah, they could put Hagelin on the team. That is a possibility.
Those are the big part of Sweden, like I said, about their loyalties, and that's why I think Backstrom is a second, is in the top 6. I think, you know, and then they just have like Hagelin, the same thing. They have
I could see them starting that way for sure.
I mean, okay, here's a couple other names. Andre Burakovsky.
Yeah, he'll have a chance. He will have a
shot. Some people are really high on him. I've seen him even on the second line, but I don't know.
Michael Backlund. No. Alex Wenberg.
No,
more a role player.
Matthias Janmark.
He could make it if they don't have Hagelin and they want to use a guy in a lot of situations. Then Janmark could make it.
Like that Raquel position that I have, that to me is up for grabs. Like that's
but Raquel, as long as he's scoring goals, he's going to make it.
Oscar Lindblom.
Well, I don't think he's ready. I think a couple of years ago he was ready. He has to regain his scoring touch. He hasn't regained.
Yeah, I'm kind of with you on that. Moving to the defense, it's a solid defense, that's for sure. It's a really, I mean, to me, the top pairing is Hedman and Dahlin, then Klimberg and Carlson, and then Lindholm and Ekman Larson. Those are my 6.
Well, okay, Hedman and Dahlin will not be a pairing because they're both lefties.
Right.
You know,
it's probably going to be Hedman and Carlson.
Yeah, because they played together a lot.
Yeah, that's true. I forgot about that point too.
You know, Carlson, even though he's fallen off, you know, like it doesn't matter for Team Sweden. And it's interesting, really interesting stat I saw on Reddit today, which I thought was interesting. I thought this is a good time to kind of bring it up. Is somebody put up the zone entries per 60 minutes for defensemen? Who the top 20 in the NHL? Really interesting stat. You know, the zone entry per defenseman. So basically, that's a guy carrying the puck a defenseman carrying the puck over the blue line. You know, how often, you know, that would happen in a 60-minute period. You know, who was the leading guy for that kind of thing, and you know, number one is a pretty. Who do you think number one would be on that one?
No, number one for what?
For zone entry per 60 minutes per defenseman.
For a defenseman, zone entry 60 minutes.
Yeah.
It's a good question.
Obviously, somebody who plays a lot.
Yeah, I think it is. Yeah, I'm gonna go Hampus Lindholm.
Okay, let me see where Lindholm is not on the top 20.
Okay.
How about that? And you had Ekman Larsson's not in the top 20 either.
Jonas Brodin.
Jonas Brodin is not in the top 20. Interesting.
John Klingberg.
All right, Klingberg is on there. He's number 14.
Wow, even Klingberg's 14. So then it's got to be Hedman then.
Hedman is number 18.
Wow.
Well,
that's why I love this stat. It's really fascinating to me. What's interesting is that there's 2 stats that this person put up on Reddit that are fascinating: zone entries per 60 minutes and giveaways per 60 minutes. And some of the ones with the top zone entries are also some of the ones with the top giveaways. Which is interesting because you're seeing, you know, guys who are taking chances. You know, they're taking.
Let's hear it. Who is it?
All right, so number 1, Roman Josi. That should have been kind of obvious. I mean, like to me, Roman Josi definitely leads that. It also, you have to look at, you know, teams.
I thought we were only talking about Swedish defensemen. That's why I only mentioned Swede.
I'm sorry.
Okay, I only mentioned Swedes, but Josi, I still wouldn't have guessed.
Yeah, like to me, you look at what you look at for this stat is teams that need the defenseman to carry the puck in, like the teams that need who don't have the forwards to carry the puck in sometimes.
Where's Adam Fox on that list?
He's not.
He's not.
He's not on this list.
And he won the Norris.
I know. So it's a bizarre stat.
That's an interesting thing right there.
Yeah. So I'll go through some of the quick ones.
Cale Makar has to be high on that list.
Cale Makar's number 3.
Okay.
All right. So Cale Makar's number 3. Roman Josi is number 1. Number 2 is Erik Karlsson. Now, Erik Karlsson had a horrible year last year, according to all of us, you know, and he did, and there's no question about that.
His team's bad.
Right, his team is bad. But the interesting thing is that he is like now. The fascinating thing about this, like I said, the other thing, if you go to giveaways per 60 minutes, turnovers per 60 minutes, Erik Carlson is number 8 on that list. As
so he's high on both lists.
He's high on both lists. But it's kind of interesting because Roman Josi is number 12 on this list. So this is defensemen who kind of have to.
Yeah, that's what you hit it right on the head there. These are defensemen that have to bring it up.
They have to.
That's the only way that offense could operate.
Right. Because number 4 is Alex Pietrangelo. Number 5 is Miro Heiskanen.
Okay, so the thing about Pietrangelo is he's safe, but he's not the best guy to use in that situation.
Right.
Where's Morgan Riley on this list?
Morgan Riley's 10 on the list.
Yeah, there you go.
Heiskanen, number 6 is Dmitry Orlov. 7 is Sam Girardi. I mean Samuel Girard. Sorry, Samuel Girard. Number 8, Gustav Forsling. From Florida. Number 9, Shea Theodore. 10, Morgan Riley. 11, Mackenzie Weegar. 12, Nick Leddy. 13, Justin Falk. 14, Klinberg. 15, Thomas Chabot.
But here's all right. So 2 things.
Yeah.
Nobody really wants Nick Leddy or Justin Falk on their team.
Right.
That's the interesting. They're not bad defensemen, but if you were trying to tell me that you're now going to trust them to be the number 1 guy bringing up the puck for you, and they're not in some of the cases. Leddy won't be.
Right.
They're just good at it otherwise, so they're like the second option. Teams wouldn't do it.
Yeah. Yeah, you're right. You're absolutely right. And then McAvoy 16, 17 Rasmus Dahlin, 18 Hedman, 19 Matthias Ekholm, who is also
Quinn Hughes. You haven't even said it.
I know he's not on here. 20 Jeff Petrie. So 19 Matthias Ekholm, who's also number 1 in giveaways for 60 minutes. Matthias Ekholm is. So
yeah, I can see that.
So it's a bizarre. It is a bizarre list.
His game has fallen a bit.
Yeah.
But here's the funny thing, X. So we don't have the Norris guy there. We don't have the best offensive defense, second best offensive or third best offensive defenseman there in Quinn Hughes. I'm not sure I'm really putting too much stock in it.
Right. Basically you have to ask yourself what does that mean? And I think what it means is these are guys who are trying to do a lot.
What it means is somebody who has a PhD in math decided that they needed to get into analytics for hockey. And decided that it was a worthwhile statistic when it's not worth crap.
Here's what I will also say, and already Simone Edmondson is making some real good headway in Frölunda. He is going to come on like a house on fire. He's 6'5", 207. He's probably going to be a last-minute invite. But that's my prediction on that.
But can we cool? I mean, and I'm not saying he's not a great prospect because he is. But can we cool the Jets when Håkan Loob is comparing him to freaking Nicholas Lidstrom? I mean,
okay. So I got an email. I got an email about that from one Kevin Allen, and he asked me to give my report on Simone Edmondson. Of course, I don't think he's Nick Lidstrom, but there are so many things that he does well, and he's already doing them well against men with Frölunda. I did say something about Håkan Loob that I won't say on this show. It was nice. It's not the nicest thing, but it wasn't a curse or anything. But at the end of the day, that's a little off. Yeah.
I mean, how old is he?
18?
18.
He's 18, right? So,
but he's like a man. Like it's just
he's a man. So, is there a possibility that he gets consideration for the Olympic team?
Yeah, I do. That's what I'm saying. I think.
Yeah, that's what I'm curious about. Yeah, I know it's an interesting one.
He's already having impact in the preseason there.
Yeah.
Unless they want to bring him along as an 8th defenseman who doesn't play to sort of get the, like if
no, Mike. Here's an example. From September 4th, he was a +1. He had 3 shots, 2 assists, and an assist on the game winner. That is consistent with what he has done at every level.
Yeah.
If he keeps doing things like that, they can't ignore him.
Right.
Fascinating. That would really be something. I mean, and
Sweden guys like Adam Boquist or any other guys you can name, but that are young and good, it's going to beat them out because he's also 6'5", 207 and has strength already.
Wow. No, that's going to be something. I mean, that is something to watch for. And I mean, who would he?
Has the stat passes per 60 minutes. Hughes is first, Fox is third. And that is what matters in this game because it gets you up the ice and it gets scoring chances.
Right.
Going.
Passes per 60. That's very different than carrying the puck in because, obviously when you're, passes for 60 minutes means you're using your team. Carrying the puck in means
you're using your teammates. When you're bringing it up these days, that means
you're not.
Right.
Right. And that means also, if you're high on turnovers and you're also high on puck entries, that means you're turning the puck over a lot in a really bad spot.
Right.
Where you only have maybe one defenseman back, like a situation where you have the one guy covering for you, so you really that means a lot of 2-on-1s, 3-on-2s the other direction. It's a scary stat, for sure.
Before we go to the LA prospects, just to touch back on what we were talking about with Ottawa, Sean Simpson, who was the one who broke the story about Brady Tkachuk not appearing at a Sens camp if he doesn't have a contract. He said, as reported a few minutes ago, Tkachuk is continuing to work out in St. Louis. He is confused and frustrated in terms of his feelings about, there's been dialogue between him and the Sens, but it's not led to much. And this is basically sounds like it's the standard operating procedure for the Sens because this is the same thing they did with Dylan DeMello before they traded him to, I think it was Winnipeg. So
yeah, but he's not Dylan DeMello.
Right, but he's not Dylan DeMello. But Dylan DeMello was a valuable defenseman, and they played the same game.
This is a franchise player.
No, I think, and I give Sean credit for this. I've interviewed Sean before. He's a former player. He's on the radio there. He is really good at his job there. I think it's exactly what I said recently, and that is they signed Batherson. They signed everybody when they should have signed him first. They got plenty of money. And he's watched all these other guys get their contracts, and he still doesn't have a contract. And that's annoying him.
Right. And what I think it is, Ak, is that those guys were signed because they knew that they could get those deals done because those were team-friendly deals. Shabbat, 8 years, $8 million. Batherson, they give him a little extra money. They buy unrestricted years. Colin White, the same thing. Here, Tkachuk is driving the bus. He wants the big-time contract. He probably doesn't want 8 years. He probably wants 3 or 5.
They don't like it. And I think for big money.
Right. And that's the problem. It's like these players want to be paid big money on shorter term deals like Austin Matthews, like Makar, like Rantanen. And some teams, they want the term. And the reason they want the term is because those teams, Buffalo and Ottawa, who wants to marry themselves to those organizations right now based on where they are and how they're operating?
They're very different situations. I think more people are interested into what Buffalo's doing. What Ottawa's doing. I'm sorry, what Ottawa's doing right now than what Buffalo's doing. Ottawa has shown glimmers where they look like they could really be a team. Like they have, you'll watch them a couple games and they'll be. For me, they were one of the teams I would watch last year on center ice. Versus a lot of other teams, even though Ottawa wasn't that good record-wise. This division is going to be hellish for them, no questions asked. As far as making anything, for them, Detroit and Ottawa have, nothing, no prayer to make the playoffs. They were both in that spot where they really are, because this division is just.
I would actually think Detroit may have a better chance.
They might, and both those teams are battling teams that are just in such different levels.
They're going to have Sider, and if Raymond starts lighting it up in the AHL, which is possible, and they bring him up, that could really boost that team and put a little charge into them. But it's an if.
It's a very big if, and they'd have to, somebody has to fall for that to happen. That's the reality is. The reality is,
and
between Toronto, Tampa, and Florida, you've got your 3 teams, and then Boston. You figure that they're going to be there. And
Montreal's a team that's going to fall.
Montreal could fall very easily. I agree, but you still got to knock off one of those other 4 teams. And those 4 teams are all.
Like this season's going to be a different animal because nobody's played a full season in a few seasons, and so now it's going to matter probably a lot with the older players. They're the ones that I think that are going to suffer, not the younger players.
Yeah, I agree with that. And Ottawa feels like one of those teams that will suddenly be good. Like that if they keep going the way they're going, like their young players will suddenly click and they will suddenly surprise you and be better. I've been waiting for Buffalo to do that for a couple of years now. Yeah, with Buffalo, we kind of lost hope in that, but that was also the hope for Buffalo for a couple of years now. But let's go to LA, and some of the prospects we got in LA.
Yeah, so I'm not going to talk about Brant Clark. I like him, but there's a lot to work on with Brant Clark, so he's not going to come up. We're going to talk about Quentin Byfield and Brock Faber.
Yeah.
I think Faber's kind of a little under the radar there. I love Helge Grant. Someone brought him up. He's not really a bruiser. He's 6'2". Someone wrote he's 6'4". Playing in the SHL, he's got a lot of talent. Not ready yet to talk about Helge Grant, but I like him a lot. Anyhow, so when we talk about Quentin Byfield, I think this will be a year where we're going to see some good impact from him. He's fast, like he's fast straight line, but he also has like a second gear. So like when he really can turn it on and a little bit of open ice, it's going to be very hard for anybody to get in his way and keep him out of the area he wants to try and score in. And that's where it's going to be a battle for opposing defensemen. It's not like they have to out-physical him, but he's very strong on the puck, so you're going to have to try and get the puck away from him. And I think if he plays it right, like he used to play it in juniors, he's going to draw so much attention to him, to himself, that the other guys, he's going to be able to feather some passes to other guys and get them into the action. So he doesn't need to be on the top line. He doesn't need to be on the second line. If they put him on third, it's fine. I think that's fine. And if you want to put him on like second power play, that's fine too.
Does he make the team? Does he make the team?
Yeah, I think he should make the team. I thought he showed enough last year to make this team. If nothing else, he should get his 8-9 game look-see. Oh, he had 6 last year. Well, I guess you could no, that was they have to have. He's not either has to make it or not, I guess, or he gets 2. Does he? I don't know. If he played 6 the year before, does he get 3 more? I don't think so. I think it's all in one season, right?
It's cumulative.
Yeah.
Cumulative.
Oh, it is cumulative. So they can give him 3 games.
You can give him 3 games.
3 games and see. All right. So
remember, last year because of the shortened schedule,
it's prorated.
6 was the most. So
that's right. So they gave him what? That's right. That's right.
Okay, so they gave him
everything changed last year. Yes. Yeah. So the 6 is it. But again, 20 points in the AHL. I saw what he did. I felt like his defense had to be improved on a little bit. I felt like there was a maturity thing that had to happen, and I think it started to happen like mid-season. I think it started to kick in for him. All right, so secondly, let's talk about Brock Faber. Now, this is a guy who was with the NTDP, who is very smart, very fast. The thing about Brock Faber is he is one of those guys that knows how to break down the other team, and he has a really good first pass. I don't know where his offensive game is going to be at. He's not an offensive star yet, but he has the makings where he could be. Last year with Minnesota, he had 12 points in 27 games. As as a real freshman, a true freshman, that's a really good year.
Yeah.
So I would think this year he's probably going to get like 25 points in 27 games. And, once you start getting in that area, you start having to think, okay, maybe he can do it. Because I think when he gets a little stronger, his first step is terrific. But again, he is just that guy that does everything right. Very safe passer, very good shot. You're not going to complain about him defensively. The coaches love him. And, last year he was a plus 17 as an example. And with the NTDP, he was a plus 10. He's always a plus. A couple of years, that's the kind of player he's been. So he's been on this really upward development curve. And so it wouldn't shock me if he only plays one more year in college and then all of a sudden we see him in the AHL and then start to see where that's at. I felt like where they got him in the second round was a real bargain. Interesting.
Now, the weird thing about some people are saying, the Kings have great prospects and everything like that. I also have like somebody I really trust who just thinks the Kings prospects are the most overrated prospects in the league. I
don't think that's the case, but I'll break it down.
Yeah.
So as far as A prospects, I would say Byfield definitely. Turcotte, I still would say is an A prospect. I would say Brant Clark's on the edge, but I'll put him in the A because he could be an A. So they have 3 A prospects. Then Velarde, he's almost not a prospect anymore. But if he is, he's more like a B.
Okay.
He's a B. Bjornfot's a B. Even though they play in the NHL, I'm just talking about what they're going to be in the NHL. Those are 2 of their Bs. And Kaliev, I'll give him a B because if he is a goal scorer like he's supposed to be, he can make it fairly quick in the NHL. So we'll see. He has other parts he's got to run out. And then, then they have Cs. I think what they're lacking is defense is always strong. Let's face it. The Kings they can turn anybody into a working defenseman on their team if you give them enough time. They've proven that. They don't have many offensive juggernauts as far as forwards. And so, like, I like Kupari, but I think he's going to be just a really good player. I don't think he's an all-star or anything like that.
Right.
I like Turcotte a lot, and I think he's going to be a really good player, but I don't think he's a superstar or anything like that. So I think that's maybe what you're lacking now.
So beyond Byfield, nothing.
Yeah. Kaliev could be that sniper. Pinelli is a nice player too. There's not many guys where you say, okay, those skills are unbelievable, other than Byfield and then maybe Brandt Clark, if it all keeps getting put together.
Right. If it all works.
Up the ladder. So
interesting.
I think that's where maybe people who you trust are falling on with their system.
Yeah. It's interesting. I don't usually hear people say that teams' prospects are overrated. That's why I bring it up. It's weird.
What about Tyler Madden?
Yeah, Madden. I think still things have to break right for Tyler Madden to be a really effective NHLer. I think he can make it. He's certainly smart enough. He had to get stronger. He was really skinny when he got drafted, but he's got the chops. He'll make it, but I don't know if he's anything more than like what you would say, is your top 9, but really like a bottom 6 guy.
Yeah.
Probably a third liner.
Yeah. No, I see it. So like you were saying, breaking down, the guy who's very good at breaking down defenses and other teams and stuff like that at the college level, that's a totally different world. That's a stat that's
he's super smart. Like, this is a kid who's super confident.
Yeah.
And I think having his dad helped him that way, because his dad had that kind of brain.
For sure.
We do that too. But then when you're talking about having the puck in the offensive zone and what he might be able to do with it, he's got some tools for that, but I don't think they're above average tools. I just think they're NHL tools. Right.
Very interesting. All right. Well, thanks as always for that prospects report for the LA Kings. We will be back again tomorrow, folks. And with more tomorrow, we'll be back with Kevin. We're going to break down the USA Olympic teams. That'll be fun. There's a lot of possibilities there. A lot of, ifs.
Which all of this could be pointless if they don't go. Which is still a possibility.
I don't know. I don't think that's a possibility anymore.
You don't think that's a possibility?
Everything in this day and age is a possibility.
They put so many sort of tripwires in this agreement that one thing happens, they're not going.
Yeah.
If they have to cancel a week's worth of games because of COVID, they're not going.
Right. Yeah.
So it's not etched in stone that they are going.
So the really interesting thing about that, then, if there's all these, before we get out of here, let's add one little thing. If there are all these, caveats and things like, loopholes and stuff like that, are these countries going to be working on backup plans at the same time?
Absolutely. I think they already have a list. I do want to update one thing on Madden, because I was curious. When he was drafted, he was 152 pounds. He's still only at 155. And again, I always think a younger player can make it. A smaller player can make it. That's fine. But he's 5'11". Yeah. And so you do kind of wonder, even DeBrincat, when you look at him, DeBrincat's stronger than you think.
If he needs a inside track on how to gain weight, he can call me.
All right, well, that's good, Mike.
How much does he weigh, Russ?
155. That's what Northeast has him.
Holy hell.
At 5'11". So that's where his battle is going to be.
That is a
battle to get that strength. So he's going to have to go probably the 4 years at Northeastern to work himself at least into strength. He doesn't have to weigh a lot, but he's going to have to be able to have a little bit more strength.
Yeah, way more than that to value the NHL. I mean, that's like
Gerard only weighs like 155, but I think it's different if you're a fast defenseman.
Yeah, way different. I think you can get away with that back there a little bit.
There's more elusiveness there.
Yeah, you're gonna have to. You got to go to the net and things like that as a forward.
I think Mars just over 155 now.
180 now.
Yeah,
he's got to be.
I knew he wasn't 155 anymore. He was when he was drafted.
He wasn't as drafted. All right, folks, remember, without the buzz, it is just hockey. We will talk to you again tomorrow.